Hey, what's up, guys? We're going to be getting into the Delphi case today. Yeah, and I feel it's like a mirror to the Idaho 4 case. You've got mysterious entities behind the scenes, both in Moscow, Idaho, and in Delphi, Indiana. Let's get into it, guys.
That community. Remember, it was on the heels of the Florida fire, which occurred in November of the year before, 2016. Devastating that could kill those four little girls. So those two cases in rural Indiana represent evil in America, because the city of Delphi is any small town USA. And what I saw that community do, and how they came together to support the family and relatives and friends, and finally us, I'll carry it with me for the rest of my life.
That this is something that the community is safe in what's taking place in Carroll County.
On May 6th of 2022, plaintiffs Sue Wright and Angela Sadlowski filed a civil complaint against Carroll County, Indiana, and the Carroll County Board of Elections. The complaint opens up by calling for an investigation of the Carroll County Board of Elections, Carroll County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Tobe Lesenby, Sheriff candidate Tony Liggett, the Flora Volunteer Fire Department, Financial Builders Federal Credit Union of Kokomo, and municipal employees of Carroll County for engaging in political activity prohibited by state and federal law. The plaintiffs allege that Tobe Lesenby, Tony Liggett, and municipal employees of Carroll County have committed numerous ethical, state, and federal violations related to a partisan primary election, including violations of Indiana Code IC 3-14-1-17 and the Federal Hatch Act. In the United States of America, the Hatch Act is a federal law passed in 1939 that limits certain political activities of federal employees, as well as some state, DC, and local government employees who work in connection with federally funded programs. The law's purposes are to ensure that federal programs are administered in a nonpartisan fashion, to protect federal employees from political coercion in the workplace, and to ensure that federal employees are advanced based on merit and not based on political affiliation. The Hatch Act is enforced by the Office of Special Counsel, or OSC, which is a unique governing body that's charged with enforcing a number of different rules, which includes the Hatch Act. So just to be clear, the rule is a workplace guideline, and violating it is not a crime. Much gray area exists over penalties and enforcement of the law. Current Hatch Act penalties include job removal, reduction in grade, debarment from federal employment for up to 5 years, suspension, reprimand, or a civil fine. Though the Hatch Act doesn't just cover politicians, it also applies to employees of programs that frequently receive financial assistance from the federal government. This would include public health and welfare, law enforcement programs, agriculture, civil defense, transportation, etc. The Hatch Act is crucial in helping ensure the execution of government programs on behalf of all Americans in a manner that is nonpartisan in nature. Ultimately, maintaining a politically neutral civil service system is why the Hatch Act was put into place and why the OSC is charged with investigating and resolving potential violations at the federal level. So now that we're familiar with the Hatch Act, let's take a look at this portion of the lawsuit. We're going to skip ahead to the third violation In the complaint, the plaintiffs allege that in the months preceding the May 2022 primary election, Tony Liggett and Tobe Lesenby violated the Federal Hatch Act by utilizing agency resources to advance Tony Liggett's candidacy and by encouraging, suggesting, or implying that subordinate employees support Tony Liggett's campaign for Carroll County Sheriff, aka coercion. The suit alleges that their actions created the impression that Tony Liggett is running for sheriff in an official capacity with the authority of Sheriff Tobe Lesenby and the agency behind him. In doing so, they violated the Federal Hatch Act as outlined in the Code of Federal Regulations. A state or local officer or employee may not A, use his official authority or influence for the purpose of interfering with or affecting the result of an election or a nomination for office, or B, directly or indirectly coerce, attempt to coerce, command, or advise a state or local officer or employee to pay, lend, or contribute anything of value to a political party, committee, organization, agency, or person for a political purpose. Citing to Exhibit C, which appears to be two separate social media posts. The first one reads, "From Tony Liggett for Sheriff, I take great pride in my leadership and team building skills. To know that I have the support of nearly every active law enforcement officer that works in Carroll County is amazing. I am humbled by this list of names. Thank you all." There are a couple comments on the post, specifically one from Spencer Kingery, who is a law enforcement officer, as well as a member of the Delphi City Council, specifically the Delphi Board of Works. He writes, "You have my support as law enforcement, as an elected official, and as a citizen of our county. Good luck, sir." So this post is referring to this flyer that was actually posted as an advertisement in the comment, which reads that there are multiple law enforcement agencies that have had the privilege of serving the citizens of Carroll County, from local officers to the state level. Based on our experience, Tony Liggett is the best person to serve as the next Carroll County Sheriff. Tony has served this community for over 20 years. His integrity, leadership, and devotion to the citizens of Carroll County are just some of the reasons he is the best candidate to serve as your next sheriff. We humbly ask that you join us on May 3rd in voting for Tony Liggett as Carroll County Sheriff. Shockingly, nobody saw anything wrong with this. They even write endorsed by law enforcement officers that serve Carroll County, pictured below, and there are some not pictured as well, to include Sergeant Jerry Holman of the ISP, specifically in charge of the Delphi Task Force. Other Carroll County crooks that you may recognize, to the far right, we have Clint McClelland, who is now serving on the Delphi Police Department. Here is a photo of him shaking hands with Brooke McCain, who is now the chief of police. Some more names you may
True Crime Design is really bringing the fireworks today.
recognize Josh Dissinger and Drew Yoder. These were the two firefighters who responded to the Flora House fire on November 21st, 2016, that took the lives of four young sisters, Kiana, Kiara, Cariel, and Keone. Speaking of Drew Yoder, the second social media post in the Exhibit C that is cited in the Hatch Act violation allegation appears to be a post made on Facebook by Drew Yoder. He says, "Have you seen this article today? Yes, that is correct. A vast majority of officers in this county are pushing to get this great man elected for sheriff. Tony has the heart, the mind, and the leadership that is of need to keep pushing forward in this world. Tony's devotion and leadership to this county is something that is wanted and needed. This county has suffered some horrendous incidents since I started almost 7 years ago. Tony, amongst others, were the first at my bedside when I was fighting for my life. Tony was always there for me during my healing process and the struggles that ensued after." There also appears to be a comment by Cindy Fuller that says, "Liggett is going door to door in the entire county to register voters that have voted in the last few years. I loved that he took the time. I was very interested in voting for him until I saw he was being endorsed by Tobe." It should also be noted that according to this lawsuit, the Flora Volunteer Fire Department also funded one of these ads in the comment. So it really begs the question how all of these individuals and municipalities surrounding both of these homicide cases in Delphi and Flora are so interconnected politically. And the fact that they both remain unsolved, I think it's time we start asking some questions, especially when you consider that the co-owner of the house that was being rented to Galen Rose and her children was owned in part by Joshua Ayers, who was also a politician, president of the Flora Town Council in 2016.
Who set that fire? Now, listen, I don't believe that anybody set it to intentionally to kill those 4 little girls. I don't believe that. I hope I'm not proven wrong. I think it was a consequence of a bad choice. And again, I hope somebody will talk to us one day.
And him and his buddy, Troy Helderman, who owned the property they were renting to Galen Rose and her family, let's just say they have a sketchy history in recent years when it comes to properties that they own spontaneously bursting up in flames without any explanation. It should be noted that both of these men have HVAC, meaning electrical, plumbing, and mechanical certifications, and they are very familiar with how electrical systems work. Just 3 years prior to the Flora fire in 2013, a barn that they were using for their Climatech heating and cooling business spontaneously burst into flames. And the article says Climatech co-owner Josh Ayers said Tuesday that everything housed in the building is gone. He and his partner, Troy Helderman, keep stock in the barn. Among the items lost are a truck, a forklift, new air conditioning system and furnace units, water heaters, and ductwork. Fresh hay that had been stored in the upper level the night before contributed to the heavy smoke. But I'm sure that's just a crazy coincidence, right, guys? But that's just a sneak peek into what's to come with the Flora Fire Department. Now back to the crooks in question, because this shit is appalling. These people had the audacity to use the name of fallen Carroll County deputy and father of 2, Noah Rainey, who passed away on duty in January of 2022 when his vehicle collided with a pole for unknown reasons. His death is under investigation currently by the Indiana State Police.
Who's next? I hate to ask you that question. I'd give my life to not have to. But I know you've asked yourself that very question. We must recognize it. You see, we're all the same. We're all human beings. We must keep our resolve for Libby and Abby, for this community, and frankly, to ensure that good trumps evil. And it will.
Do you think the police department might have a hand in what's going on there in Delphi? Or possibly those 2 businessmen? That every single house that they've rented has spontaneously went up in flames. And they have a history of being HVAC and electrically certified. Something really weird is going on in Delphi, Indiana. Just like something really weird is going on in Moscow, Idaho. Could these 2 cases be linked somehow, some way? There's already rumors that the cult of Odin is operating in Moscow, Idaho. Is the cult of Odin operating in Delphi, Indiana as well? And they're the people behind the murders of Abby and Libby? None of us really know. It's all speculation until the truth comes out.
So those two cases in rural Indiana represent evil in America, because the city of Delphi is any small town in USA.
In 1992, the city of Delphi passed an ordinance adopting the Indiana Administrative Code on Building Regulations. It addresses building safety, including electrical, mechanical, and plumbing codes. While a building commissioner is in charge of inspecting buildings, the ordinance has rarely been enforced in the past 2.5 decades. Mayor Shane Evans says he wants to change that.
It's there to benefit the public. I mean, it's there for health and safety. It's there to make sure that the investment you make in your property is going to be a sound investment. I think anybody comes in your community and assumes that there's building regulations that have been in place.
Some Delphi City Council members want to see the ordinance repealed.
I just want to see us go down a road that is going to cost a lot of people a lot of money to live here and to build here and that kind of stuff.
In a letter to the city council, Evans said if an ordinance is passed to repeal the original building ordinance, he will veto it.
I agree that we need minimum standards with different aspects and different things we do. But you can't sit here and tell me that more government regulation translates into prosperity for any city or any town.
November 21st, 2016 is a day that lingers in the minds of many in Carroll County, especially Deputy Drew Yoder.
We got to go in and get him. That was me and Josh's first thinking.
Yoder and Flora police officer Josh Dysinger were the first to arrive after a report of a fire at the East Columbia Street home. Yoder, who drove past the home frequently, saw Galen Rose outside and was familiar with her 4 daughters who were still trapped inside. Yoder and Dysinger sprang to action. Yoder was severely injured trying to save all 4 girls who died from smoke inhalation. After waking up in the hospital days later, he learned the tragic news.
When I was told the 4 little girls did not make it, my heart sank to my stomach.
While he mourned the girls' lives, he gained strength through all those.
I would suppose that by now, each of you have learned of the tragic fire that occurred in Flora early today. I'm certain that each of you are touched by the tragedy with the deaths of 4 children and burn injuries to first responders and the mother of the children. Although the cause of the fire is undetermined at this point, this event underscores the risks involved for multifamily dwellings, especially those in converted single-family homes. A contractor customer of mine was telling me this morning that he had done work in the home several months ago, and he observed a number of issues that at the time would have been high-risk conditions: inadequate electrical wiring, poor housekeeping, and the absence of multiple exits. He did not notice fire/smoke alarms or fire extinguishers. I don't know if these conditions were corrected prior to the fire, but I do know that if Flora had building codes and effective enforcement, any deficient condition could have been discovered and corrected. And maybe today, 4 little children would be alive, and those injured would not have had their lives disrupted in such a traumatic and violent event. As the mayor continues to construct a building code enforcement policy and process, I encourage you to keep in mind the importance to the well-being and safety of our community of efficient oversight and enforcement of codes for residential, multifamily, and commercial buildings, including construction, maintenance, and occupancy. I am certain the town of Flora is asking themselves this morning if there was more they could have done to prevent this tragedy.
He's basically taking 4 people's deaths and a mother who was in the hospital at the time and 2 of our emergency personnel from the county, and he's basically politicizing it.
But that's not how Dywart sees
fire chief has resigned.
He is the third person to now resign that has been involved in the investigation of a deadly fire that killed these 4 sisters. Adam Randall's resignation as fire chief comes almost a year after the girls' deaths. Adam's father, Dennis Randall, was the fire investigator with the State Department of Homeland Security. He has also quit his job this year. He resigned this summer after 13 investigators uncovered emails questioning his handling of the case. And then just last week, the Carroll County prosecutor announced he's retiring at the end of the year for private, personal reasons. There have been allegations of a cover-up and botched police work in this case. State police, though, have come out against those allegations and are still promising to get justice for the family.
I really pray, just like the superintendent does, this doesn't go 30 years. I'm hoping it doesn't go 30 more days or 30 more minutes, to be perfectly honest with you. We'd love a conclusion right now.
Somebody
today.
knows.
Somebody does.
Somebody knows.
Absolutely.
And you know, statistics would tell us that we probably have come across the name, the person somehow, because this investigation has spanned such a broad area.
Yeah.
But we don't have that one piece.
Yeah, I think once we find out who did this, we're going to think, yep. Yep.
So too.
Your next development opportunity awaits you just minutes outside of Wichita in Goddard, Kansas. Don't miss your chance to seize this unique offer.
So, is there a link, guys, between the murders of those 4 innocent sisters and the murders of Abby and Libby and the murders of Kaylee, Xana, Ethan, and Maddie? There very well could be a link somehow, some way. There very well could be a link to all of this, because I believe that Delphi, it mirrors Idaho 4. They are linked somehow, some way, in some position. They are linked. You guys have a good day. I'm gonna try to go live later on this evening. Like always, like, subscribe, and comment on my channel. Hit that bell notification for any new uploads. And we'll get to the bottom of all this together as a community. Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Crime Cult. Keep checking under your bed for those boogeymen. They're everywhere. Ha ha ha.